All right, so today I'll be covering the controversy surrounding Frege in the plagiarism controversy. So, what is this controversy? This controversy stems from a paper that was written by Susanna Bobzien titled "Frege Plagiarized the Stoics." Now, in this 50-page paper, it goes into a lot of detail that I won't be really going into in this video, but I will be explaining and summarizing a lot of the points and claims and the similarities and differences and everything about that. So, why does this controversy even matter? Well, this is a pretty big one because Frege, he does matter. He's a pretty big and important figure in logic. He's one of the founding, creators of modern logic and of analytic philosophy. And a lot of his ideas and concepts are still used today. So the notion that he plagiarized from the Stoics can really hamper and damage some of the preconceived notions that we have about logic today, that we typically view as, Frege's ideas. If they're actually Stoic ideas, that could, that'd be a big deal. So a lot of logicians were obviously very, amazed by this. And some of them were angry, some of them were not. Some of them were like, whoa, it's just interesting. One of the people who thought it was interesting was Martin Linz, who actually writes that in claims that it was a sort of landing on the moon, which was nothing short of a sensation. And in his little blog post, he expresses how he was, he kind of saw this himself, but he always kind of shooed it away and didn't actually think much of it. But then once he read this paper, he was like, oh, it all came together and it made sense to him. And there's a lot of pieces of evidence that I will be covering. One of them is that Rudolf Herzl, who was Frege's housemate, who specialized in the Stoics. So he already, he lives with a guy who knows a lot about the Stoics, and these guys talked. We assume they lived together for a long time, so you would hope they would talk, but presumably they talked a bunch, and they probably shared ideas. They're both philosophers, they're both specialists in thinking, so they probably did share some ideas. So already, he has a friend who he could talk to, who could share ideas. But who is Frege? Well, Frege is a famous German logician and mathematic and philosopher who was crucial in the emergence of modern logic and analytical philosophy. He was very important. He wrote a lot of important books and pieces, and a lot of concepts that were very important to modern logic. For example, Begriffsschriften is a very important one of the most important books that he wrote, which was a huge deal, and still is used today for a lot of logistical ideas and concepts. So, what's similar in his works? Well, Frege actually sprinkles in a lot of Latin into his works. He references things like Homer, and the Odyssey, the Iliad, stuff like that in his work. And he also knew both Greek and Latin, which is pretty rare for the time. I mean, a lot of people didn't know Latin or Greek. Usually they just knew Latin or they just used Greek, but he knew both, which means he could probably delve into a lot of Stoic work, which is commonly in Greek and in Latin. So he had the ability to read and to understand the Stoic stuff. He also showed a good understanding of Aristotelian logic. So he knew Aristotle. He had mentions, and he demonstrates in his work that he does understand that. Which is, means he could understand the Stoics by proxy. One of Bobzien's main claims, in fact, is that Frege used Karl Prattlund's massive book titled History of Western Logic, which is basically this big book about the Stoics and about, logic throughout the ages. And the Stoics are a big part of this. So basically, Bobzien claims that this, combined with all the other factors, his knowledge of Greek and of Latin, his understanding of Aristotelian logic, puts him in the perfect place to use the Stoics. So that's basically her claim. Now, there's a lot of wording that's similar. For example, his use of content, word questions, sentence questions, modism, mock thought, propositional logic, contradictions, negation. You get the point. This guy covers a lot of things that are also covered by the Stoics. So already you see a lot of similar concepts, there's a lot of similar wording, a lot of similar ideas, which he doesn't, mention the Stoics. So there is kind of like that shifty, like maybe you did get some ideas from the Stoics. So then people are like, well, he never plagiarized, he never cites the Stoics. So did he steal these works? Well, maybe. Now, there is a lot of stuff that is different, though, in Frege. Now, Frege, being a mathematician, uses a lot of math and mathematical theories in his work. Throughout his work, he uses math and technical language. He seeks to break down logic, and a lot of his concepts, he breaks down concepts, like what is a concept, and stuff like that. So his focus was, I would say, entirely different than the Stoics. Frege was focused on the technical aspects of what makes, like an idea, what makes a concept, whereas the Stoics were more focused on like ethics. So they they focus more on the philosophical idea of like what makes things away. They did a lot of questioning and stuff like that, but they're asking similar questions, yet they were looking, I would say, for different answers. So again, you could claim that the similarities in both these theories can be written off because, well, they're asking similar questions. They're going to get similar answers. So, for example, no one would claim that Clausewitz stole from Sun Tzu when he wrote his book On War. Both these books, The Art of War and On War, well, they're both about war, and they both mention similar, ideas about war, like numbers matter, logistics matter, stuff like that. Yet no one's, claiming that Clausewitz has stolen from Sun Tzu. So even though they have similar ideas and they cover similar topics, no one's going to claim that they're, stealing from each other or they're plagiarizing because, well, they're from different times and they're covering different, aspects. Clausewitz was studying Napoleonic, whereas Sun Tzu was studying more ancient warfare in ancient China during the Warring States and all that. Now, there's some other stuff that's counterpoints that Linz actually summarizes. For example, he points out the fact that a lot of logicians, when this paper came out, claimed that, oh, we already knew this. We already knew that, this was very similar. And they pointed to older research and earlier research. And the other one, they also say that, Frege, maybe he did, claim or plagiarize a little bit, but, Frege still deserves some credit for, inventing this stuff. He's still a genius for having, put all these pieces together into one coherent form of logic. So that's a very, very, very brief, summary of some counterpoints to Bobzien's paper. Now, my opinion of this is that I think Frege did have some influence from the Stoics. Yet, I don't think that Frege meant to plagiarize them in ill intent. I don't think Frege was trying to steal the Stoics' ideas and, put them on as his own. I don't think he was malicious in his intent. I think what likely happened was that he borrowed some ideas from his talks with Herzl and his reading of history on Western logic, and I think he may have blended those into his own ideas. I don't think he was trying to steal, valor, steal credit for his ideas. In fact, this is not uncommon. Sometimes people do consider old ideas to be fair game. They didn't have a copyright system, but it was still kind of like, oh, everyone knows the Stoics. I don't need to cite them. So that could have been one of the reasons, was that he didn't see the need to cite the Stoics since he thought everyone read the Stoics, which isn't true. But maybe you could say that he thought that way because, well, we can't talk to him now, he's dead, but that he was very well versed and he was surrounded by people who knew the Stoics. So maybe in his mind he thought, oh, everyone knows the Stoics anyway. And he also did propose a lot of different and unique ideas. So despite some of the similarities in his wording, in his language, a lot of his ideas, such as his analysis of proof, and his logic of function and his theory of extensions, all that stuff, that's still real good stuff. That's still, it's good. It's not copied from the Stoics. The Stoics didn't invent the theory of extensions, but his theory is still, unique, and it's still useful even today. So I think that he didn't, plagiarize the Stoics.